Hello everyone and welcome. It's the 2024 Mary Sunshine House Classic. We're heading into the back nine at the Oconee National Disc Golf Complex, the Blues as they're called. What a battle we have unfolding. The likes of Double G along with Grady Shue, Jake Monn out of South Carolina, and Gavin Rathbun, originally out of Illinois, but we see him in the South, especially all winter long. The back's supposed to be easier. Well, at least statistically, it has been over 1.5 rounds so far. We'll see what they can do as we head to the 10th. 561 feet, an uphill climb that initially is going to bring you from right to left, and then plenty of scattered trees that will protect this blue basket. Big pull by Grady. Nice line drive. Going to keep pushing forward. Not positive that I would say there's a perfect landing zone. There's a few places you don't want to be on this hole, but plenty of places that give you options in terms of good tee shots. Just a few not so good places. Those are the ones obviously you need to avoid. And Jake finds an open spot on the fairway there. As you can see by the score, some struggles by Double G, who was tied for the lead after round one, along with Grady Shue and Jake Monn. And we see scores actually just all over the place. Grady having the best front nine of any of these four competitors. Grady just 1 over through the front nine. Both Gavin and Jake 4 over through the front. Gavin seems to have impressed himself filtering through all those final guardian trees. That should give him a long look for birdie. And it looks like Grady's got the access code as well as he gets all the way through. Got to assume that 10 comes in as one of the easier holes, and I guess I'd be wrong. It's just about in the middle. Still averaged 4.37. And some frustrations have come from Double G. Although he hides it very well, you can certainly assume that he has some frustration. He's kind of in hurry up and throw mode to some degree. The birdie attempt by Gavin was short. Grady trying to get back to even par on the round. He's done just that. Great birdie. Out of 98 players, we see that Grady is just one of 14 to pick up a birdie here on the 10th. Pars, and we head to the 11th, 444 feet. Options are to go through this tunnel, which I didn't realize until today actually has somewhat of a mesh ceiling to it, or a wire ceiling on that tunnel. Some players will go up and over, and we saw some creativity. We saw forehands try to go up and over yesterday. Evan Smith attempted that. And we also saw some backhand attempts to go up and over, and that's exactly what the plan was there by Grady, but that gets hung up and going to drop straight down. Double G. Going with the roller that's going to go just in front of the stump and just outside of the circle. And he's going to have a birdie look. Remember, 444 feet, almost perfectly pin high, slight uphill putt for birdie. I'm not sure if that was a wrist roll or if it was the wrong disc, but didn't seem to be the right ticket there for Jake. Gavin trying to follow the line by Double G, but pulls this one to the right side. And then has to go with a forehand roller. So backhand roller, forehand roller, all to an obstructed putt. And Jake's forehand roller gained some pretty good distance, but isn't out in the clear. So he'll still have some work to do. I'm not sure where they sell them, but if you could pick up a pair of scramble pants, you're going to need them for this course. I don't know if that's a South Carolina special. I'm not sure if maybe that's something you get when you move from the Q Series onto the Pro Tour. I don't know how that all works. I'm not sure who's selling that in what shop, but scramble pants are needed. Long look for Jake. Count it. Great putt. That's to save bogey for Jake. Even a bigger, more difficult putt possibly coming from Grady as he had to deal with the low ceiling. And somehow he scrambles himself into a par save. Can Gavin do the same? And not quite. Double G now with a birdie look. You hear the sigh coming from Double G. A great drive, I should say, to get him to that position, but not able to capitalize. When it was all said and done, just 4 birdies out of 98 players here in today's round on this hole. So Double G to clean up for the par, but it slides through. At this point, I feel like somebody else blew out his birthday candles. I'm not sure if that's some kind of bad luck or terrible karma or what, but things are not going well for Double G. He was off to such a great start, nearly acing the very first hole, but then found trouble on 2 and just hasn't been able to get things going since then. And we head to the 12th. Shortest hole on the course, just 285 feet. A direct drop off behind the pin though, as it sits on a rock ledge. Problem is, if you come up too short, that all but guarantees you have to lay up. Grady's got some height on this. Oh no, he needed the basket to get in the way because it's going to leak all the way deep. And not something most players were thinking about. In fact, Grady didn't realize off the tee that he had gone that deep to be able to find the out of bounds. I like the idea of being more aggressive rather than coming up short here, just because then you're not forced to lay it up. You can decide if you want to lay it up if you've gone deep. Like where Jake has just landed, that's layup territory. There's no other decision to make. If you go deep of the basket, obviously not as far deep as what we just saw from Grady, that at least gives you choices. This is coming in hot as well. And so that's going to filter all the way to the bottom. Again, that gives Gavin an opportunity to say, hey, I can just pitch it up, walk away with a conservative par, or he could get a little bit aggressive with it, as that one catches an edge on the layup. And now Jake's going to have work to do as Double G wastes no time just stepping up and throwing it right next to the pin as the layup. Gavin couldn't see where that landed, so he was asking if it did sit down, and of course right next to the basket. Good par save coming up there from Jake. Hole 12 played as the 6th easiest hole. And shockingly, it actually still averaged over par, which I'm going to admit just surprises me. 15% of the field picking up a birdie. 59% of the field picking up a par, leaving the rest to bogey or worse. Yes, we did just see this card play it at 1 over as a total. 285 feet is all it was. Now we head to a hole number 13, par 5, 925 feet, a right to left bend to start climbing this hill. Bob, weave, whatever you want to call it, as you filter all the way through, over the short pin, turn to the right, slightly downhill. There's the long pin, just shy of 1,000 feet. Double G off the tee. Good release, but not a great result. He's going to have to deal with the trees, maybe impeding his run-up or his swing space, whatever the case might be, as Jake is going to kick out. Might have a little room to work with there. However, you still see a few trees. And just look at the difference. You see Double G's disc there, and then also where Gavin is. Less than 10 feet from each other, but two very different lies that they'll have to deal with. And that one, big time trouble there for Grady. Less than 100 feet of progress. Not what you need on a par 5, nearly 1,000 feet. Let's see if he can make up for it.
There's no way, man.
Grady's 3 throws in and has now solidly hit 4 trees. And that's just the punishment of hole 13 over and over again. A great shot there by Jake. Hole 13 averaging 6.32 as a par 5. And this is what you're worried about with Double G. Just forced to go with a standstill forehand. But makes pretty good progress, but still not in an ideal landing spot. Way off on the left side is where Grady is throwing his 4th. And that one's clean.
Go ahead, dude.
Jake's 3rd. Bounces off a couple of trees. I got to admit, walking up this hole, watching some of the struggles here, as this is going to roll ultimately off to the left side of the fairway, still in plenty of trouble. I'm starting to wonder if the players are having fun. Clearly, there's plenty of challenge here. We're not dealing with extreme temperatures. We don't have any rain to speak of. We don't have any real wind to speak of. It's not overly hot. It's not overly humid today. These are good golf conditions. And this is challenging every bit of their game, both physically and mentally. There's no doubt about that. A great shot by Jake. Great shot that comes there from Grady. It's easy to start losing count of who's even on what throw at this point. That was Gavin's fourth, so he might be hunting an elusive par. Another forehand roller by Double G, and this one gets less than 30 feet. Just not able to get out. That was Double G's sixth throw. Jake from circle 2. The putter saves him again. That's a par. Not easy to come by when you're talking about pars on the 13th. There were 0 birdies on the day. So that par has to feel like a birdie. In fact, just 19 pars in total today out of 98 competitors. And you just saw 2 of them. One coming from Jake, and then the short tap in there coming from Gavin. It's going to be a double bogey there for Double G. Pars never felt so good as we head to the 14th. A very difficult and demanding tee shot where you're just trying to push from left to right to set yourself up to possibly get in position and then to go up the narrow corridor here. That FPO basket not in play, or not in our way, so to speak. Could have done without the second kick. Double G is going to change it up. Yesterday he went forehand roller off the tee. Today the forehand puts him in perfect position. Nice little forehand chip shot coming from Grady. Gavin's second. Still not ideal position. You essentially need to land, I'm going to say where either Grady is or where Double G is if you want any good chance at getting a birdie here. You still need to throw in your perfect second shot. And that one's pulled in, but the good kick on the second redirect is going to bring him toward the fairway. But at best, he's going to have a long birdie look as Gavin's throwing his third. And Jake, find an angle. He doesn't have it. So just a pitch out to the fairway. Can he get up and down? It's going to be tough. No, not from there. high left side, so you'll still have a look. Double G throwing his third, and that's going to give him the best chance out of everyone to get a par still. You don't want to hear FPO scores or spoilers. Mute me for, well, as long as you need to, but at least for the next 15 seconds, as I want to say, Kat Murch still out in front. She had a very solid opening round and extended her lead today in round number 2. She's trying to hold off Cadence Burge, Sarah Holcomb sitting in third, Paige Shue and Deanne Carey sitting in tied for fourth as we see Gavin collect his bogey. Kat with a 13-stroke lead as she'll head into Championship Sunday. Double G is in for the par as we see Grady pick up a bogey. So the par by Double G gives him the honors on the tee here of 15. And he picks up a stroke on the rest of the card. If that doesn't tell you something right there, that par is gaining strokes on the rest of the lead card. Pretty crazy, and I'll admit, it feels like we close out on a slightly easier note. 15 through 18, if you see any birdies on the scorecard, these are the most common places to get them. Double G lacing the mid. All the way down, just 10 feet short of the basket. What a shot by Double G. And this was talked about yesterday. No one on the card taking the route. Jake does. And eventually it drops to within 25 feet. Well, for being an early release, that seemed to filter pretty good down that left side. Grady.
You're kidding, dude.
Yeah, he connects on the right side, kicking him over there. Not a lot of progress. I don't know if I've ever seen this stance before in all my years. Gavin. Oh, just barely short. Looked a lot like his putt yesterday on one of the par 5s that he can one from long range, but today he's going to have to settle for a par there. Conversation. Conversation about the casual relief that it is as to where he could take a legal stance, and he's opting, as you can see, going about 10 or 12 feet behind where his mini was. That's his first place that he wanted to take it from. Rather, he could put his foot in there, play from that spot, but opting to play it with the casual relief. Jake for birdie. And that's going to sting. Such a great drive on a very difficult hole. Double G collects the birdie. That's Double G's first birdie since hole 6. Hole 15 coming out to take a bite of the scorecard of Grady. Couple of disappointing par tap-ins for the other two. Just 3 holes left to play. If you're going to birdie anything, 16, 17, and 18, and you look at the scorecards, just statistically, those are playing as the easiest holes on the course. 16 for the second day in a row, definitely the easiest hole out here. 300 feet, slightly uphill, and I'm going to go ahead and say the biggest fairway on the course. Double G goes to about 25 feet deep. It'll be slightly downhill for him as Jake steps up. Nice low line drive. And not a problem for Jake. Going to be near a bullseye hit. And that one's pulled way off to the right. Maybe more importantly, that's going to be obstructed. Not going to have much of a look at the pin from there. And Grady, not quite enough turn. However, he'll be at circle's edge. We'll see if one of those trees comes into play for him on his putt. Just one tree to deal with. Looks like he can go to the left of it. The effort is short. This, again, easiest hole on the course by a considerable margin, in fact. Gavin stepping up for the par. Not a lot of enthusiasm going on here as we're trying to close out. We're pushing almost exactly 4 hours at this point for the round. 2 holes left to play on a Saturday afternoon. When it's all said and done, Jake is the only one to pick up the birdie here on the card. They're going to have a long wait before we get here to the tee of 17. This is the designed route. Playing down here, a dog leg to the right, playing then down this corridor, which will lead you to a basket perched on somewhat of an island there. However, 0 people so far have taken that from what I've seen. And Jake is going to launch this one. Huge Anheuser up and around. And that eventually would stall out. And he is going to get across the water. We'll see what he has for a second shot. Double G also. Huge Anheuser. It's all said and done. It gets over most of it. From there, that should be a relatively easy up and down. And Gavin seems to have the right line. Oh, and it comes crashing down just short of the pin. 625 feet. If you were to take the intended fairway, I don't know, you can get out your Pythagorean theorem here and a squared plus b squared equals c squared or something. I don't know. I think as the crow flies, this is considerably shorter, obviously, and it's downhill. But Gavin will have an eagle look, and that's going to be on the high left side. That's going to be somewhat obstructed, but still, that's at least 80% of the way to the pin. And Jake catches edge and ultimately is going to land in the casual stream. Anyone else agree that casual stream seems like a good name for like a 80s band? I swear there's about 8 holes.
Okay, great.
As Jake's going to go ahead and pretty much play directly from his lie there. There's been about 8 holes where Grady's had one tree to beat. And somehow that tree has stayed in his way each time. So this being his third now. Has the power, but too much, in fact. Gavin. Less than 25 feet. An eagle look here on 17. And give it to him. Gavin Rathbun picks up the eagle. As we're watching Grady struggle to close out. Here he chased another eagle getter. I think that's an official term. Harry was able to pick up an eagle on this hole. Harry's also trying to find himself on the lead card come Championship Sunday. Birdieing 16 and picking up an eagle on 17 is going to put him in good position to do so. Ethan Yager also picked up an eagle as I'm scrolling down. So 3 eagles on the day on 17. Pretty special club of gentlemen there as we head into the 18th. 375 feet, slightly uphill. Playing to a beautiful rock formation. Plenty of ceiling. Obviously, it's all about missing those final few trees on the right side, then maybe getting it to sit somewhere on top of the rocks. Similar to yesterday, Gavin, well, he can't be far from where his birdie putt was from yesterday. We'll see what he can do with it today. Double G. Basket hunting, closing out with a park job. It sits down right next to the pin. Really bookending his round today. A near ace on 1. And a pretty close run here on the 18th. Actually, Gavin pointing out just the same for a double G. And great looking shot coming in from Shue. However, you see he gets the accelerator skip off the rock. He's in circle 2. Well, thankful that tree stopped him. That's going to save him at least 10 or 15 feet, maybe even more. Gavin, birdie look. And from just inside the circle, Gavin closes out on the 18th with a birdie. He goes 3 under in the last 2 holes, and he'll match his effort from round 1. That means rounds 1 and 2 both 2 over par. And that's going to put Gavin into a tie for 5th heading into Championship Sunday. Grady will close out with the par. And again, happy birthday to Double G, his 35th. One of the most solid humans on the planet. Disc golf or otherwise, it doesn't matter. So much class, also a lot of fun to be around, and we wish Double G the best of luck on Championship Sunday. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. I've got giveaways. Big thanks to Tyler, along with your crew, running the tournament, and Brian and Ryan. Everything you guys are doing here at the Merry Sunshine House Classic. We appreciate you guys for joining us. That's who you'll see on the lead card come tomorrow.